see it? Yes.
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
you?
Yes, ma'am. We can see and
Okay.
hear.
Okay, great. Okay, again, I was born in Atlanta and I was raised in New Jersey. My family's from the South, and but I feel fortunate that I was able to be raised in New Jersey because at the time, I don't know if it's still true, but at the time, North Jersey specifically was very art centric, and even though I always had an interest in the sciences as well as the arts, there was a lot of things for young people to be getting involved in. I was in science fairs and spelling bees, and a lot of opportunities I got was because of the statewide initiative to support students, and I think I benefited from that. My brother and sister were raised in the South, and specifically in Georgia, and they didn't have a lot of the same type of programming available that I did when I was in New Jersey. So again, I felt very fortunate. And even though I was science centric and tech centric, I always dabbled in the arts. And whenever I could take honors classes or classes in art or art appreciation, I did, specifically in high school. And one of my paintings um, got accepted and won an award at a statewide competition. And we had a show at Rutgers at Douglas campus in the Brunswick area. And anyway, it was a signature moment for me. It's like I know art's going to be in my future somehow. I don't know how, but because my family, specifically my dad, wasn't very supportive of an art life, so I didn't know how I was going to become an artist, but I knew that I was going to figure out something. So that experience was signature for me. So fast forward, I moved to Atlanta. I get accepted to Georgia State University, and like I said, my dad wasn't very supportive at the time of art, and so I thought I was going to transfer over to Georgia Tech and study architecture, but I had to take a couple years of classes. I couldn't transfer to my junior year, so my dad was very clear there was going to be no art classes taken, no studio classes, none of that taken on his dime while he was paying for school. So for the first year, he paid for school, and I wind up getting very interested in my second love, which was science. And so I decided to major in the hardest thing I could think of, which was physics. And it's ironic because I wasn't very good at math all through from elementary to junior high school to high school. You would look at my math performance and you would not have picked that I would have majored in physics. But I had those experiences, like when I said I got an internship at AT&T Bell Labs. I did a lot of science fairs. I love science, but the math hung me up. And so learning by forcing myself to major in physics, I had to force myself to really own up to my deficiencies in math and clear them up because the science was more important to me than giving up. So I took classes that I could have skipped, but I knew I didn't have a solid algebra background. I knew I didn't really understand trig. So even though I had the requisites to do calculus, I went back and did college algebra. I humbled myself a little bit, and I'm glad I did because I think a lot of times when people have math phobias and math issues, it's not so much of them. It's sometimes it's the teacher. And it may be that the teacher is teaching in a way that the student is not. That's not the type of learner they are, And anyway, I was very lucky, and at Georgia State, I found a few teachers that really helped me make it click. And there was a chemistry teacher and a math teacher that broke everything down to me. And after that, I didn't have any problems, and I was able to minor in mathematics. You can't major in physics and not get a math minor because it's pretty much built in. So my concentration, however, was chemistry. So I was more interested in physical chemistry aspects of physics than just other I other aspects like nuclear or biophysics and stuff like that didn't excite me so much. So I got accepted to the Ronald E. McNair program and I was able to work in research at Georgia Tech and at Georgia State with using lasers and spectroscopy, and I built quantum dots, which were multi-layered nanoparticles, and then I analyzed them using um, picosecond laser pulses to test what's called their nonlinear index of refraction, which if you have a science background, you kind of understand how how pigments and elements absorb light at a certain wavelength, right? So anyway, that stuff totally excited me, believe it or not. And I relate it back to art because when you're talking about the visible spectrum and how the eye works and how the brain processes the data that the eye receives, it's all physics, it's all chemistry. And if you to the very level of going to the studio as a painter or a printmaker, you're still dealing with physics and chemistry. Without physics, without chemistry, there would be no paint. There would be no mediums that the artist could use. So I learned early on. I saw a connection between the two, where some people think either you're a science or a math or an art person. I think that you can synthesize the two. And actually, if you read about the personal lives of some of the greatest scientists of our time, a lot of them in their personal life were also artists and poets. Einstein wrote poetry, and he was a watercolor painter, and he played the violin. A lot of great scientists complement their life with art, and many times some of the breakthroughs they have is because they were able to tap into another part of their brain, their creative energy, in an artistic way. So even though I'm happy for the new push for STEM, um, I'm more engaged and more focused on a push for STEAM, science, um, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. I think art is a critical component, and if we're only going to focus on STEM, I think we're still going to be missing. So anyway, long story short, that's kind of how I got to be how I am, and my work, even though I'm an abstract painter, I still feel that my work is imbued with this philosophy of a connection between art and science. And I can backtrack a little bit. Also, part of my cultural just my cultural education in New Jersey, I was a musician. My mother, she taught me how to play the clarinet and the organ, and I performed, and I was a dancer, ballet dancer. So all these things incorporated into meld into my mindset about what kind of life I wanted to build and how I look at everything I'm doing. So art and building and creating, are manifesting just about everything that I've tried to do. I got married right after college, like literally. I graduated in mid. I graduated, I think, December 11th, and then that following week I got married. So uh, then my husband he was a year ahead of me. He graduated a year ahead of me, and we were the only two brown kids in the physics department. So we were bound to know each other, and so we became best friends. And then he graduated, and then I graduated the following year. He graduated and joined the military, and the following year I joined him. So, which is another story, but it led us to moving to Puerto Rico because he got stationed there after he got out of flight school and commissioned in the Navy as a naval officer. And so we lived in Puerto Rico for a while. And right around the time Hurricane George, I think, hit the island. So that was like right when we moved in. So it was pretty dramatic thing. But what it did was allowed us to live off base, and we lived out in town. So we got to live among Puerto Ricans instead of living among military community, which I benefited from because I got to really experience what the island was all about. And it led me to finding out about the cultural stuff like the art school. And, I was able to travel to the different museums and so forth. And a lot of military, it's very insular, it's very, it's some very Anglo type of mentality too. But I really felt a kinship to the Puerto Rican people that I met, and it was like family. So that was wonderful. So again, like why we moved to Puerto Rico, because my husband was a Navy pilot. He was a helicopter pilot and newly minted Lieutenant JG. So when we got there, I I found myself very lost actually because I didn't go to college to be a military wife. Honestly, I didn't go to college looking for a husband. I went to college because I wanted to be an architect or an artist or a scientist or something like that, right? I did all that work to become a professional, and but I fell in love, and then I kind of got into the whole be a good wife situation, and there was some personal issues that were also affected my thinking. Both me and my husband, our parents were going through issues, and some got divorced, and long to 90s, and so there was a lot of things that kind of drove me to the mentality that I had. But when I got to college, I mean, when I got to Puerto Rico, I was focused on also, having a good marriage and being a good wife and all that stuff. And but I also was struggling with my own identity and who I was as a woman and who I was going to be. And the being especially an officer, being an officer's wife carries his own issues. So a good friend of mine from high school, my best friend actually from New York, he came down and he visited us, and he stayed with us for a while. And we had a wonderful visit. And on his way to the airport, we stopped up for dinner, and he said, "Where's my best friend?" And I said, "What?" And he's like, you become this perfect wife, but where's my friend? And where's the girl who used to just wanted to be dreams. And anyway, he gave me a little lecture, and I was taken aback. But after sending him back to New York, it got me thinking that I really needed to take some ownership of my life and my own personal vision. And so I went and I enrolled into an art school in Old San Juan. I mean, I had to present a portfolio and all this stuff and apply, but I got in. But I don't even think I would have had the initiative to do it if it wasn't for the kick in the pants my best friend gave me. So that's a testament to having your friends to tell you what to do, you know, to keep you straight, real friends. So anyway, how I was going to pay for it, I didn't want to take, I didn't want to take issues. I didn't want to do this all on the family money. I wanted to do this on my own. So I figured I got situated with I made some friends, and they taught me how to do certain things, and I made some connections in the rainforest where I would spend a lot of time. And anyway, I paid for art school because I learned how to weave coconut hats and basket and fish and sell them to tourists. And you might not think that was a lot of money, but this is Puerto Rico, so there's a lot of cash money going on, and you can make a lot of money if you hustle. And that was a very first indication to me about the power of hustling. You know what I mean? So as an artist, I think that's a very good sentiment to have, is the hustle ability. And if you look at what we're living in now, we're in a hustle economy, right? So anyway, once I got some money saved up, I was able to pay for school, and I wasn't interested in getting another bachelor's degree. I already had a bachelor's degree in science, and the school, Escuela de Artes Plásticas, only offered at the time a undergraduate degree. So I wasn't interested in that. And I mean, they only spoke Spanish there. I mean, the teachers spoke English, but I had to learn Spanish, so that I wasn't going to be that American that was forcing everybody to speak English because I couldn't learn Spanish. So I learned a little Spanish. I learned Spanish enough to understand. I know a lot of art Spanish. I could talk to you in art in Spanish, but the thing about it was it pushed me, and but I didn't allow certain obstacles to keep me from doing it, because I really knew in my bones that this art education and this experience was important to me. So I studied printmaking and painting primarily. I did sculpture as well, but I primarily studied painting there. And let's see, it was I didn't really I love painting, but it was printmaking that really excited me. And unfortunately, I don't have any pictures of my time in the printmaking studio, which is where I spend most of my time. And actually, I started actually cutting, even though I was a painting major. I started actually cutting painting class and just going to the library, because I actually learned more in some with some of the professors. I actually learned more in the library, just getting tons of books and just going through the books and learning all I could learn. And you know, instead of just being in the studio in studio sessions all the time. Uh, you know, you're college students, you know what I'm talking about. So sometimes you have to know what you want to do. And I think also as an art student, you can get so inundated with the teacher's assignments that you don't have time to do your own assignments. So I learned very quickly that I needed to meld the two. So I started tricking myself by doing whenever this teacher gave an assignment, I tried to figure out how that assignment would work with what I also was trying to do on my own personal stuff. So, I was trying to always kill two birds with one stone. That way I didn't resent having to do that work. And also I learned, I used that work to help push my own personal work forward. So whatever you're majoring in, try to incorporate that type of philosophy, and that make it a win-win for you. Um, let's see. So I don't have a lot of pictures. I really kicked myself. I wish I had more pictures from college. But that's a tip. If you guys are in college, so things that are important to you, people that are important to you, stay connected and document it. These were like my best friends in school, and this was like from a senior exhibition. So the my influences, some like I said, as a student, I just absorbed all this art history that I could in the libraries and so forth, and became a real student of art history. And specifically, it was in Puerto Rico that I learned about the Harlem Renaissance, which, I mean, I went to all black elementary school. I went to all black junior high school, practically an all black high school. I mean, Georgia State, my university was international. It had a lot of students, foreign students. It was a very diverse school, but still, I had a foundation of 12 years in an all black environment, predominantly black environment, and I still didn't know about the Harlem Renaissance. I learned it in Puerto Rico, just absorbing books in the library. I don't know how I missed it, but no one talked about this. And I took art classes all throughout my education. And so, I mean, I'm learning about Elizabeth Catlett and Charles White and all these people. And that specifically that period of the Harlem Renaissance was amazing. And that happened. And I think more people should know about it. So I fell in love with Elizabeth Catlett specifically because at the time I was struggling with being a young wife, being a young woman, and I wanted to be, I knew we wanted children and so forth. So I was struggling with trying to find art figures, especially women who who had made the decision to be a mother and a wife and an artist instead of most, because a lot of the stories of women artists that I came across up until that time were a lot of women that either decided that not to be involved, to be single, or they were in these relationships which was detrimental to their work. And it was like this choice: you either to be an artist, you had to sacrifice having a family, you know, or you had their family and you sacrificed your art. And I didn't want either one of those. And so I was looking for role models that had found the path that I wanted to take. And Elizabeth Callett was the first artist that I found that path, for who had found that path that I found. And I was fortunate, I was actually able to meet her, I think around 2004 or so forth. And she had come up to Savannah and for a show at a retrospective at the Telfair Museum in Savannah, Georgia. And I was in Jacksonville and I drove up to hear her talk, and it was wonderful. It was so worth it. And I'll never forget one of the things she said, and at the time she was 80 years old. And one of the things she said was she couldn't wait to get back to Mexico because she was in the Black Power movement and she got become blacklisted, and so she had to move to Mexico to continue working, and that's where she found her second husband. She used to be married to Charles White, and they didn't work out, and so she married this Mexican guy who's another artist, Francisco Mora, I think. And anyway, they had a family, 3 sons, and blah blah blah. But what was interesting to me the most was that not only did she make her life work and she was a good mother, her children love her. I actually had a son there. Like I said, she was 80 at the time. He was just there, just hovering, just to make sure she's all right. But she says to us, after we're looking at these slides of her work all over, that she's been all over the country, her work has been shown all over the world, blah, blah, blah. She said, I can't wait to get back home to Mexico because before I came here for this retrospective, I had ordered a 6-foot chunk of ebony, and I can't wait to get home to carve it. I said, my God, that's what I'm talking about. 80 years old with that kind of energy and drive. I said, okay, yes, this is definitely an artist. You know, she was a great example. I was so happy to meet her. Okay, so that was an example for me. That's what I wanted to do. So moving on, I guess I talked a little too long here. This is my daughter, and I've been explaining to her about the art world. She's a graphic artist, and so it's great that she's learning about the African American leaders like Elizabeth Callett and Whitfield Lovell, Fred Wilson. I got to meet him. Fred Wilson is the partner of Whitfield Lovell, and these are type A, A-list artists who, and Fred Wilson, for example, I think he represented the U.S. in the Venice Biennial one year. Julie Moretu is an influence because she's amazing, and she's young actually. She's a little bit younger than me, but she's also her work's already is selling on the secondary market. And my favorite is Mildred Thompson. Some of her work is here in Jacksonville. And Alma Thomas. And so you see, there's a theme here I wanted to focus on. I got a little long-winded on the other parts, but Black abstraction is something that's on my heart. And even though there's a lot of popular movement towards abstraction, I mean, Black and figurative work, abstraction is where I think I will be making my contribution. A little bit about my process is that I believe in my philosophy is one of controlled spontaneity. I like to paint with explosive color and dynamism, but then I like to go back in and carve order out of the work. Quickly, I'll show you a video, and we may have to end it there, but you'll see how I work in general. Can you hear? Can you hear?
No, ma'am.
No.
I was working on a commission for a at a studio in Ybor City, and the painting is 40 by 120 inches. So at the time, this was the biggest piece I'd ever worked on. And so it was a game changer. It was a $10,000 commission. And so at the time, that was also the most I've ever made on a work. And so I was pretty, I wanted to document the experience. So I used, and also this is the first time I started exploring using spray paint in my process. So at the time, before then, I was mostly a brush and palette knife artist, but adding spray paint and inks, I think added a dimension to my work. So if you go to my website, you see the evolution of this work, and I've started working in series about the abacus. I was very greatly influenced by Jackson Pollock, in addition to several other artists. But what I liked about Jackson Pollock's work was that he freed the American artists to incorporate everything they learned from European artists with a uniquely American spirit, of freedom, and that's what I was after. So that was what that was about, and it ended very well. And they designed their whole office space around my work, which was a great honor because that was the first taste I had of the customer, the client, treating the artist and the art not as a decoration, but as the central part of their work, of their space. It said, and they've told me that it activates the space in a way that generates creative energy in the room for their clients. I recently had a couple exhibitions. At one in Chris Elliott Museum. It's in Augustine. And this is one of the pieces. Even though I'm an abstract artist, I do believe my work is in the vein of social abstraction. And this is a painting I did in regards to what happened to Sandra Bland and her death. I had a show. I was part of a show at the Cummer Museum recently, and my paint is in the center. And I show this because I'm centered between two artists that I consider my teammates, Tracy Mims and Eric Kendricks. We've shown a lot of places together, and but again, my work is very different than theirs. My work is I'm focusing on geometric abstraction, while they're focusing on the figure, the Black figure, specifically the Black woman. We also collaborated recently on a mural, huge mural. I haven't measured it, but it's a warehouse face. Takes up a block, just about. But it's called the Women's Activist Color Jacks mural, and we ended with the writing of Asaka Shakur. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. This mural is in a very depressed area of Jacksonville, on Myrtle Avenue, downtown. And we wanted it to be a colorful, bright spot for the people. And while we were working, so many people walked up and passed us, in different stages of their life, but they thanked us because they felt that this building had transformed from a blight to something that inspiring. So I was very fortunate to be a part of that project. So thank you for listening to my talk.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rashid.
We enjoyed it. We enjoyed it.
We have a second session. Everyone who's here, if you want to join into second session for questions and answers and talk to the artists, so please go ahead and join us. I will post, I think it's on a Facebook, on VAPA Facebook, and my students have under their assignments the link to second session. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So do we leave this one?
Yeah.
And come back?
Yeah, and come back. Okay, I'll send you a link.